Hey everybody, Kane here and welcome to another video of Art of Conquest. So, I finally have upgraded the Silverwing Literature Confidential 12 buff and tested it as well. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot to click record. I thought I clicked it. I think I even checked it. But something happened and it unclicked and I don't have any specific proof to show in the case of a video. So majority of my words will have to, I guess, be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt, I guess, because some people require proof to show, otherwise they don't believe it. But for some people who have waited or didn't upgrade, because I know some people waited for a very long time for me to test it, it's actually not that bad on specific units. So, in this case, I only tested a couple of heroes. Now, one of them is probably my mistake, because I could have done it better in the case of Avril and magic damage, but the physical hero we tested was in terms of Sizo. So, the army that we tested against was a very high cosmic, high literature, high buff, whatever frontline, and it was incredibly tanky. And since my, say, rogue research is not incredibly awesome, right? It's like subpar. So, the numbers that I got weren't really incredible. So, the Sizo killed one frontline mech unit in 20 seconds with 70 or 72 million attack. I swapped a tier 11 devastating strike onto him, and I think he had like 72, whatever, in terms of attack value. So prior to the confidential buff, he killed one mech in 20 seconds prior to the confidential buff. Now, after I upgraded the confidential buff, the one that reduces the resistances, he killed a frontline unit in 16 seconds, which pretty much makes it so he killed the mech in 4 seconds faster. Now, the mechs, they have like a huge range resistance in the first 10 seconds, so wasn't necessarily the best troop to test against, because again, they have like high range resistance, and of course Sizo is range. So after that buff disappears, the window of him damaging and damaging quite a bit is like the next 10 seconds after that. So without the confidential buff, it took him additional 10 seconds after the first 10. After the confidential buff, it took him 6 seconds. So the buff is kind of working on the physical classes and working quite a bit, because they don't have that many resistance reductions. So if you're looking at even archers to do more damage in terms of, say, Rakan archers, human archers, all that kind of stuff, I'm dead certain that they're still gonna have a ton of efficiency in terms of the damage that they're able to do. Because again, if a hero without that much buffs, because I just tested a single hero without any buffs or other stuff like that, gonna perform a lot better with that particular buff. So, magic, I tested Avril. Now, after I have upgraded it, it dawned on my head that I might have required to test it on other magic heroes, such as perhaps Tisafin, which likely would have ended up a little bit better. So, prior to Confidential 12, I destroyed 2 squads of mechs with Arcane 8 in 15 seconds. After the Confidential book, I destroyed the mechs in 15 or 16 seconds. Basically, it did not have almost any use. Like, it didn't really give the Arcane 8 any huge buff. Now, there are nuances as to why. So, for example, in the mage research, right, we have tier 10, which grants 50% magic resistance reduction on the units being damaged by the mage. Then, of course, we have tier 15, reduce the magic resistance of all enemies by 25% for casting an ability. I was casting Avril's abilities, because that is where her damage is. So, it only later on dawned me that I should have used another hero for testing, like Tisofin or stuff like that. So in terms of Arcane 8, the hero which, does a huge tons of damage, it did not necessarily incredibly buff this particular hero. So that is the thing. I mean, I think in terms of general PvP, right? Because we have multiple buffs that we need to proc on enemy and reduce resistances. You might not need to proc those buffs now in particular, or as much or as many in terms of resistance reductions. So that one is still a win in the book, I guess. You still would on occasion deal more damage even with mages. But then again, it was kind of, a bad on my part of testing or not testing two types of mages, one with basic attacks and the other with, say, ability cast like Avril. Now, the other thing that happened with Confidential 12 is I noticed that my Lee started one-shotting shit left and right. Now, that is a dragon sometimes, that is Avril sometimes, because now somebody attacked me in the castle defense and I put him on there, and he literally just one-shot at Avril, one-shot at quite a few heroes just by himself. So there are nuances where, for example, even in my own formation, I don't have a ton of physical resistance reductions or damage increases or all that kind of stuff. So this buff is extremely, and I do mean extremely efficient for the physical races, the physical damage dealers, because like you don't have that many physical resistance reductions. And what I assume kind of is happening is that once you get too many magic resistance or whatever reductions, even those diminish in the effect they have. So maybe 40% becomes 5% or less and less the more you proc on the same target. So since physical doesn't really have that much, the effect is a lot higher in terms of efficiency than it is for mages, because again, mages already have a lot of them. So that is my finding, is that the Confidential 12 works a lot better on physical races, on physical DPS, etc, etc, simply because the physical races do not have any or as much or from multiple features or whatever. However, mages do have a ton. So in particular in that, say, Arcane 8, didn't really buff it in terms of the tests. So I mean, in PvP it might actually be different, because we were just checking against specific army. So again, sorry guys, I don't have any video proof to show, but hopefully this information is still useful to you. If it was, do hit that subscribe button, it would help me out a lot. So as if you would wish to support me more than just watching my videos, I have made a Patreon page where you would be able to do just that. And in return, I would be able to help you out more individually in terms of events, PvP formations, and stuff like that. Well, as I would like to thank all of my patrons for the support. I really, really appreciate it for your subscriptions. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching, take care, and stay safe out there.